Hey guys, Caleb here. I think this is probably not the episode that a lot of people were expecting us to release right away. We have had this episode in the can for quite a while, and we wanted to get it out. We didn't want to wait on it any longer. We do have an episode that we're doing on, the situation involving Grums. That episode is being recorded tomorrow, so it'll get out pretty quick. But in the meantime, enjoy this episode with Kate. It's a really informative and good one, and we'll see you next time. Welcome back to Western Kabuki. My name is Caleb. As always, I am joined by my co-hosts. June, how you doing?
You know, I am getting blood infusions as we speak. I'm getting the vitamins. I have my blood boys on deck. Mm-hmm. We are trying to live forever. We are conquering humanity. And I'm hoping that's what we can do here tonight all together, is we can conquer humanity. I'm doing wonderful.
Yeah. We've got the official Western Kabuki Blood Boy, Lol. Lol overruled, Lolo. How are you doing, pal?
I'm good. I was getting parents in trouble today. I was calling Child Protective Services on some parents.
Hell yeah. No, okay. Here, this is not what we're talking about tonight, but I have in the last couple of years become like blackpilled on parents' rights. Like right wingers have been like pivoting into like parental rights, and I have come to realize parents of students at schools are some of the most evil people alive. Like parents,
yes,
for students in schools should have zero rights.
I think that we should give every child an iPad with lessons on how to be an entrepreneur
and ways to become or find blood boys. Teach them young.
Yeah.
Don't sue us, Ethan Klein, for that joke, by the way. And Alex Goldman, how are you doing, pal?
I'm really just sad that we're going to be talking about people who have unlimited wealth, and I am recording this in a friend's closet. And that's right. You already left,
didn't
in Chicago, so
you're already in Chicago.
I sweat my ass off in Caroline Thompson's closet. Shout out to Caroline Thompson.
I love that you're staying in a Faraday cage. You're recording off the grid, so you can't be found by these people.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to tomorrow night. So for the listener, we're doing this on the eve of the live show weekend. Alex is already there. June's already there. Lolo and I fly out tomorrow, and we're shacking up. We're bunk buddies.
This is going to be the first time all Western Kabuki co-hosts will be in the same room ever in like the last 2 years that the show has been running.
Yeah.
We have all never been in the same room together ever. So this is a monumentous? That's
right.
I think that's a word. It's a monumental.
It's going to be so
monumental
sick,
and momentous.
I will say that I am not technically legally allowed in the city of Chicago.
Wait.
Because Lori Lightfoot banned me from the city.
Wait,
yeah.
Parents' rights.
About?
Yeah.
For parents' rights.
Wait.
We can talk about it later. We don't have to talk about it right now, but it'll be fine.
Okay. I hope this is real. I really love this. Okay.
I got a trespassing
week.
ticket in Indiana for walking on some train tracks in like 1998. And I would just, every time I drove through, I'd be like, you know what, it'll probably be fine. And then like a couple of years ago, I looked my name up and found that they'd expunged it because they couldn't find me to take me to court because I didn't pay the trespassing ticket.
Nice.
Hell yeah. Trespassing rocks.
We are joined by a special guest, Kate Willett, a comedian and co-host of the Dystopia Now podcast. How are you doing, Kate?
I'm doing good. I am excited and also terrified to return to this topic of crazy tech billionaires. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Are you also in a Faraday cage right now?
No,
tinfoil hat on? No.
I have the house that I live in has a tiny little room next to my bedroom, so I record in there.
There you go.
Incredible.
Yeah, I was like showing a video from the podcast that I do to a friend of mine, and I was like, "Oh, what do you think of this video?" I was excited about the little graphics they put in there and stuff, and he's like, "Have you thought about cleaning this room? Moving the stuff off the floor."
No.
So that's my weekend project, is to like add a bookshelf or something, look like a professional podcaster.
If you put books on the shelf behind you, make sure you don't have to read them, but just make sure that you like bend them enough so that they pass the binding test.
Yeah, I was
thinking
about it. You know, I was gonna choose, you know, books that I thought would, you know, resonate with women who love too much. You know, like yeah.
Hide the Nazi books.
Yeah, put those like under the bed. You know, maybe all that stuff
off screen or any fascist literature you have.
He's just not that into
you. Kate, what? How would you give us the elevator pitch for your show?
So the show that I do is with my friend Emil P. Torres, and Emil is a philosopher and professor who used to be involved in the long-termist movement, which I'm sure we'll talk about that later today. But basically, our show is about the ideologies of tech billionaires. So everything from the crazy space, let's all move to another planet, long-termist stuff, to like the neo-reactionaries, like I know that we're going to get into today. But we kind of had the thesis that because these people are so influential, it's useful to understand what direction they're trying to steer the ship in. Like they don't necessarily believe in, I mean, they're certainly not socialists, but I would also say that what they believe is kind of different than, you know, traditional neoliberalism that has dominated our politics. It's way more sci-fi, and they're putting a lot of effort into making this grotesque world a reality. I don't think it's going to work out. Like, I don't think that we're all going to become digital beings, for example, with our consciousnesses
not with that
uploaded. Yeah.
Any day now, AI is going to become so sophisticated it'll be indistinguishable from another person. It'll be able to name all of the states that start with M.
Yeah,
we'll be able to read a slightly plagiarized version of Cat Person, but
by the way, I finally showed ChatGPT to my dad because he's just never believed me that, like, man, the wheels are coming off. This is going to blow up any day, and he just has never understood why I thought that. And finally, I was like, fuck it. I showed him ChatGPT, show me all the states that contain the letter R, you know, the famous test. And they still haven't fixed it. And the look on his face was like, oh my God, this is really as bad as my son says it is. Very funny that was what finally got him.
See, like we talk about like this technology, but this is kind of what's driving all of their ideology and future projects. And it is like really bad right now. But I think the sad reality is that a lot of this probably will get better. And I think so, as always, we provide our notes for the show in the show notes and just everywhere we post those. We got for this episode, we got our researcher B to do more notes for us, and they're incredible. I highly recommend taking a look at them. But I think it's summarized like this ideology, because it's not like neoliberal. It's like, it's fascist. I would say like the ideology underpinning all of this is definitely fascistic, but it's not even quite fascistic, because I feel like doesn't, like, it's beyond democracy in a sense. And I think on these notes, it's summarized very perfectly by like as crypto colonialism is like the like most succinct way to look at what this whole project is, you know? And I feel like, so I've been thinking about this. This has been like a hyperfixation of mine for over a month at this point. And the more I learn, and I'm sure you all feel the same way if you've looked into Curtis Yarv and Peter Thiel, all the connections between those people in this current Trump administration, you feel like a fucking insane person telling people about this topic, right? Like, I can't be alone. Where I was telling one of my very offline friends about, like, we were talking politics, you know, and how the hellscape is coming out in this second Trump term. And I was telling her all about, like, Curtis Yarvin. I think what is it? Balaji? Is that how you say that guy's name?
Balaji Srinivasan, I believe.
Yep,
yeah. And like Peter Thiel, I mentioned Peter Thiel. She's never heard of him. And I'm like going down the like connections between all these things and like Gamergate and all of these like things. And she believed me. She wasn't doubting me, and she was learning a lot. But I felt like I was about to put on a tinfoil hat and sit behind the InfoWars desk.
Meme.
Yeah,
I felt like a maniac.
Yeah. No, it absolutely sounds fake. You know, it's like, well, you know, first they wanted to move us all to the open sea, and then they kind of got the idea of moving us to Mars, and now they're just trying to take over America. It's like, okay, you need to stop smoking so much weed, dude. But
can we talk before, because for the first segment, I do want to talk at length about what a network state is and all that stuff. But there's so much like of this like libertarian utopian history that like it's in the notes, and I hope you guys read it. B did a great job on those, but it's probably not going to be a focal point for this. But seasteading and all this stuff. Kate, can we talk about that, please?
Yeah. So when I was, I think, 25 years old, I lived in San Francisco, and a lot of my friends were just Burning Man type people. Not super political, but if they were political in any way, it would be more along leftist lines. But because I was hanging out with a bunch of people who understood how to do construction, and a bunch of my friends got hired to build these giant floating platforms for a huge party that was going to be on the Sacramento Delta. And I went with them, it was a free ticket to a party that was described to me as like Burning Man on the water. And, we had all our tools. And it turns out that it is the first ephemeral, which is this group, the Seasteading Institute, that was backed by Peter Thiel and a couple other libertarian leaning billionaires. I think Eric Schmidt was in there. And they gave all this money to a couple guys. One of them was named Patry Friedman, who's Milton Friedman's grandson, I think. Grandson.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
So there was that insane connection.
Yeah. And so anyways, we built these platforms for the libertarians. And in some ways, it was just a very normal party. It was cold. It was windy because it was October out on the Sacramento Delta. But there was this undertone of like, yeah, we're all going to live like this. This is how we're all going to move to international waters where there's no laws. And the conversations that I had with people were fucking insane. The party was probably 10% women. Everyone else was a dude. It was kind of right at the dawn of like everybody getting into crypto, and like to be fair, I should have listened to them and bought some Bitcoin at that time. I would be really wealthy, but
you also might be friends with Peter Thiel, and you would be a totally different person.
Yeah, I've thought about that I would be like a different and bad person if that had happened. But the conversations that I got into with these libertarian guys, first of all, just logistically, like they kept like falling off into the water, and they were like cold, and it was really windy, and they had never thought, like they had this whole plan to like move humanity onto the sea, and they had never thought about the practical aspects of that. Not the wind, not the water.
Doing it in October.
Yeah. And then, like their vision of like, because, it was like, I would ask them like, okay, how do you see this working? And my favorite conversation that I had was with this guy that was just the nerdiest person I've ever met in my life. And he was telling me, I'm like, okay, well, aren't you going to get bored out there on the open sea? And he's like, no, it's going to be amazing. There's going to be all these chicks that want to have sex with us. And I'm like, really? And he's like, well, yeah. Right. I'm like, why is that?
How did that follow logically?
Well, you got to wait for it because it's so much better than that. So the reason that the chicks are going to want to have sex is because Silicon Valley and this group of libertarians, this man believes that they're close to creating immortality, some kind of pill or supplement that is going to make people live forever. And in his thesis, that's going to make the chicks super horny because the women will be so incredibly relaxed without that existential weight of knowing that we're going to one day die, that we are just going to want to fuck. And I'm just listening to this and I'm like, that's so crazy, because I would only have sex with you if there was like a literal gun to my head. I would have to be
ironically that makes
moments
me want
from
to
death.
Die more.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was, like that was far from the craziest idea that was brought up. Some of them wanted to take over the island of Nauru, which you may remember is that very resource depleted island nation. And they were just going to pay all the people who live there to vote for the libertarians and then start their colony there. One man was recommending boating around the world and kidnapping people from developing nations and enslaving them, and then letting them earn their freedom, his words, not mine, through farming algae. And these people were just absolutely fucking nuts. And the whole time I'm there, I'm just like a 25-year-old on drugs. And I go back to San Francisco and I start Googling a little more. And I realized like, oh no, these are people with real influence. These psychos actually have like... Yeah.
So you said Peter Thiel was at this event?
No, he wasn't there. It was just... No, it was Patry was there, but it was mostly people who were, I think, not yet rich and famous. Like kind of a lot of software engineers. I mean, it was very drug heavy. It was very poly, but it was also just these people that, you know, they were utopians, which like you think about utopians as being people who, you know, like they want like a world of, you know, sharing and communal meals or whatever. But these were people who like wanted like an Ayn Rand utopia where just everybody is out for themselves.
And thought it was like fucking dope or something.
Yeah,
no, it was really crazy.
And we're like, oh, this is aspirational.
Or Waterworld. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone remembers that movie, but it was just like that's supposed to be one of those movies where you're like, oh yeah, wouldn't it be terrible if we all had to live in the water? And they're like, we can do this because we'll be allowed to do unlicensed dentistry out there. I'm like, all this just to be able to extract someone's wisdom teeth by a person who can't finish school? I don't know.
But you won't have to pay taxes. It'll be so sick.
One thing that is like really worrying and why I don't even think that it's like beyond fascism. I was earlier today, just before we started recording, I was reading an essay, the 2009 Peter Thiel essay. I think it's called An Education of the Libertarian or something like that. And like in that essay, I somehow have never seen this before. But he mentions how he does not think freedom and democracy are compatible, like ideologies. And that's like the underpinning of a lot of the modern like tech right. I mean, you can look at pretty much any tech startup out there in the world right now, and a lot of these different events, he either has direct connections to a lot of the people running and trying to get these projects outgoing, or he's directly funding them too. Like Peter Thiel, I view him as like the genesis of like modern like evil, of like modern Hitlerism, whatever you want to call that. He was kind of like the progenitor of like this current movement that we're seeing being played out in the government right now, I feel like.
Oh, it's low-key homophobic of you to say that about him.
I know. I'm outing a gay man right now. I outed him. He's a faggot, everyone. Hopefully he sues us.
Yeah, dude, you're really playing with fire right now.
Peter,
Jesus Christ.
I don't agree with this, Peter, if you're listening.
I have no comment on your sexuality, Mr. Thiel.
Mr. Thiel, whatever you like, sir.
We'll be your blood boys.
Yeah, Peter Thiel and Hulk Hogan are about to show up to the live show.
Seriously, they're going to be the ones serving us papers.
Isn't this kind of like conceptually like they call it like the California ideology, right? It's like this libertarian-esque thing. Like there's this book from the 90s, and it was this kind like the kind of hippie fascist shit. Like now it's obviously we see it in this way in our government, but I feel like it's just been encroachment from Silicon Valley over a period of like 25 or 30 years. Like maybe it starts with maybe it starts with Jobs. Obviously Jobs was maybe not as nefarious as Thiel, but like these tech guys who, I don't know, but like Jobs was also a fruitarian. Did you know this? And
what's a fruitarian?
What?
Yeah, what's that?
Is that your new slur for gay people? Come on.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was on some homophobic podcast.
The doctors were like, you have we can give you treatment for he had like kidney
pancreatic cancer.
Pancreatic cancer. And he was like, yeah, I'm gonna eat fruit. Like I actually
Oh yeah,
from everything I read about that, like, hey, we caught this early. Your chances of survival are very good. He's like, nope.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna eat fruit. It's like, Jesus.
It's interesting
Christ.
that that's the case with him, because he could have easily survived, but the weird thing that's underpinning a lot of these current wealthy tech people like Thiel and Brian Johnson, who are all connected, is they're really concerned with their own mortality. As you mentioned before, they believed that they were going to create some pill that was going to make them live forever. Like these people are very concerned
They're
about
so
living
self-obsessed,
forever.
and they're so self-important that they believe that they can, should, and must like live forever.
Yeah.
June, you had mentioned that Peter Thiel quote where he said freedom and democracy are incompatible. That's not only a real quote, that's the fundamental basis of an essay that he wrote in a Cato Institute blog that I'll make sure if B didn't include it, I will put it in the notes. Where he talks about basically his plan for all of this kind of, and this is all the way back in 2009, where he's talking about seasteading, space steading, cyberspace steading, kind of in the network state sense.
Yeah, those were like his 3 points. With those, that was the 3 realms that we're gonna take, and like I think he was like, sadly, not to give him credit, but he was kind of right in the internet realm and kind of probably right about the space realm. But I just feel like the seafaring realm is probably a dead end based off of what you told us, Kate. And like, there's not really a lot of that happening anymore.
Yeah, well, they gave up on it when they got into Mars colonization. They decided at a certain point that other planets were going to be. Yeah.
Nobody wants to live on an abandoned fucking oil rig or whatever. Anyway.
And also other
ideas are so bad. The reason that those guys that work on those make $200,000 a year or whatever is because living on a fucking oil rig sucks. It's not fun. It's a terrible job.
I'm sorry.
It seems awful.
Wrong again. You guys are not true Stoics. I'm a Stoic.
Marcus Aurelius would have lived on an oil rig.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think my favorite story about like the seafaring aspect of all of this is there was some crypto guys. I forget off the top of my head right now who was connected to purchasing it, but during early COVID, there was like a cruise liner that depreciated in value by like 90%, and a bunch of like crypto tech people bought it, and they're like, we're gonna move everyone on here and we're all gonna live on the sea together. And then like a year in, they were like, they knew nothing about boats or like boat maintenance, and they're like, we're just gonna get rid of this. We're done. We're gonna sell.
You'll
this
see
shit.
that as a common kind of when we talk about Balaji's book, The Network State. That's something that they kind of very obviously miss constantly.
Oh my god, I just found it. It was called, sorry, before we move back, it was called the MS Satoshi, after fucking Bitcoin.
Oh yeah,
after the fucking founder of Bitcoin, Satoshi. Come the fuck on. See, at the end of the day, I like my underlying thesis of all of this is these people are insufferable nerds.
Yes, that is very, very correct. You'd said that he was like kind of right about the internet, and you'll see, I think, unfortunately, and stay with me before you throw your phone against the wall because you're mad at me for this, but you'll see a lot of this, like, because these guys are all coached by Curtis Yarvin, and that is a quote from Curtis Yarvin and Peter Thiel specifically. But like, you know, whether it's like a Carl Schmitt, the political philosopher of the Third Reich, or Curtis Yarvin or whatever, these guys often do, and like, and Kate and I were talking about the Curtis Yarvin interview with the New York Times that we'll get to later as well. They're really good at presenting a kind of like decent, I don't know, a kind of a diagnostic approach to like what is wrong with liberal capitalism. And it's like, oh, wait, these are things that like most normal people I think could agree with. But the problem is right up at the second they get to the prescriptive state, it's just fascism.
Yeah, they're like, should women vote? Maybe not. Also, we should just abduct people and make them work for us until they get their freedom. Yeah, we like that. It's like, stuff like that.
You can earn your freedom by farming algae. It's a great system for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm just still so horny from the immortality pill idea.
I mean, I don't blame you.
We're all going to have sex with Peter Thiel after this.
Like, no, his lover died. His lover died under mysterious circumstances, and you know, I don't want to get sued because we don't know what happened. But
when did this happen?
This was back in I think 2023. He was dating a model and social media influencer, and they had a big fight. And then shortly after that, the guy died of a possible suicide, but it was like a very suspicious circumstance.
I remember
Twice,
reading about that.
2 shots in the back of the head, with a suicide letter, typed in sans serif.
By Curtis Yarvin.
Yeah, I love the idea of like him freaking out and calling Curtis Yarvin as his fucking fixer guy. Like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. What was that? Ray Donovan? That's like, it was Ray Donovan.
He's Luca Brasi. Curtis Yarvin just comes and annoys you until you die.
Yeah, or like Mike from Breaking Bad. Oh, okay.
Is it true that Thiel? This is alleged. This is all. I don't think
this whole episode is alleged.
Alleged. I also don't think any of it's true, Peter, and I'm on your team. is it true that all his like exes like live on the same street? Have you heard this?
What? No.
No, I haven't heard that.
No.
I know that Elon has like a baby mama mansion.
Yeah,
row.
he has a compound.
Yeah.
I've
Get
heard
outta
the
here.
same. I have heard allegedly the same thing about Teal, that there is like a place where they all live on the same street in homes that he bought for them.
Oh,
He needs to know precisely where they are in case he needs to eliminate them at any time.
Jesus.
These people are fucking psycho, if that's true.
If it's true, and
If
you know
it's
what?
true.
I don't even think it is, guys.
What can you tell us about Kate Balaji and his book, wonderful book, The Network State?
So, according to Gil Duran, who you were talking about, has a podcast on a lot of this stuff. He's a
Great.
journalist.
It's only one episode, but it's very good, and the title's awesome. It's called The Nerd Reich. So check it
Yeah.
out.
And he
So
also
fucking
started
good.
his own podcast recently too. I don't know if it's out, but
that's
he
the
has a
first-
blog
the
called The
first
Nerd
episode.
Reich. And what he told me is that Curtis Yarvin actually what he told me is that Balaji Srinivasan actually pulled a lot of these ideas from this book called The Sovereign Individual that Peter
Yeah,
Thiel
from the
also really
90s.
likes. And so Balaji has kind of repackaged it. But basically, the idea of the network state is that, they want to have like these kind of independent, tech societies. And there's a couple different ways to make it. One, you can move somewhere and like seastead or go to Mars, do your libertarian colony by separating yourself from society. Or I think this idea has kind of grown in prominence in the tech industry. You can just take over an existing society. So we see them trying to do that in San Francisco. They have, all these kind of astroturf tech groups that really started with the recall of Chesaboudin and ousting of their school board. And they've made huge inroads getting a tech aligned government of San Francisco. And now they're kind of trying to do the same thing with Doge. It seems like make the United States fail in some way so that, it's like these network states, it wouldn't be like the size of the entire United States. Like they would all be little and they would all be kind of controlled by, one or a few tech billionaires. And
The idea being that they have these small physical representations that are, this is my understanding, I'm asking, by the way, these small physical representations that are granted authority by their, I guess, host states, and they kind of run like a parallel economy.
Yeah.
To
Or
what
there
end
could be
or
like,
why?
but it could also be like, I mean, that's one way of doing it, but I think that's kind of what they were trying to do in Honduras, but they could also just exist post democracy. I think that, a lot of the kind of network state talk in Silicon Valley is about for like what happens after democracy, after the United States as we know it ceases to be a cohesive country. What does the next system look like? And they're in the prep stage for that. But like even Balaji Srinivasan, he's talked about what he calls ethnically cleansing San Francisco. And if you give me a second, I'll pull up the quote because it's really spectacularly funny and also sick. But he wants like everyone who is tech aligned in San Francisco to wear one colored shirt and I think blues, and that the other people would have to dress in gray.
Yeah, he's got three groups: the reds and blues, who are the libs and the Republicans, and then the grays that are like the tech whatever. So he wants them all to wear gray.
Yeah, and so he wants to basically buy off the police so that they would be aligned with tech, and like buy them off as in give them enough money to take care of their families for generations into the future, so that they would be willing to kick everybody out of San Francisco that is not aligned with the the liberals are the blues. That's who he wants to purge, or the progressives. But he wants, he calls it actually tech Zionism, which is crazy.
Oh my God.
But
That's so awesome, dude.
yeah, so he's very clear about what it is, and he wants to implement tech Zionism in San Francisco. And I mean, it's like this is not just some nutty guy. He's a billionaire, and it looks like on Twitter anyway that he's friends with Elon Musk and a lot of these dudes.
Very
I think
influential.
I didn't realize that the Balaji was the guy that like this was like 2 years ago now, quote tweeted, I forget, but he was like some left-leaning Twitter account that was like, the US will not enter hyperinflation by the end of the year.
Right. He made $1 million bet, didn't he?
Yeah, he was like, if you buy 1 Bitcoin, I will put down $1 million. We'll have a contract if we enter hyperinflation, something. Like
it was he was predicting that it was right about the time that the tech guys did a run on all the Silicon Valley banks. And he was saying that the US is going to enter hyperinflation in 90 days. And if it doesn't, I'll give you $1 million. Did he ever give him $1 million?
He did. It took a while, but he did. Yeah.
Now, I have been omnipresent of this guy for at least 3 years, and I just had no idea he was like a figure or influential in any sort of way. I think that's been the surprising thing about researching this whole movement of like fascistic tech people, is that like they're all connected. They have all been operating in the open for decades now, going on 2 decades of trying to build this movement towards this network state system. And it feels like I can't be the only one that's just finding out about like this network of individuals trying to bring us to that point. Like it feels like they've been openly operating, but like no one took them seriously because like the technology wasn't there. It didn't seem like they had
the idea
a movement
itself
behind
is
them.
absolute dog shit too. It's have any of you guys ever read Atlas Shrugged?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
It's
I read
just
it for the creepy sexual assault scenes, you know.
If you haven't, God bless you. There is I guess a hidden city called Galt's Gulch where all of the super special boy computer people and scientists and artists and entrepreneurs all live in peace and harmony away from people who want you to pay taxes, essentially, is the book. That's what the network state is, kind of, except with like it's even dumber somehow. I don't really like. I didn't finish it. I wanted to finish it for this episode, but I really couldn't make myself do it.
And it feels like, so they want us to get to that point. I feel like there was a stereotype of these like rich people that were scared of the end of the world and they all made bunkers. But these are like this movement of people, they don't want bunkers. They want separate societies. They want to invent capitalism too, essentially.
They have bunkers also though. Like they definitely also have bunkers. It's like
the aspirational goal is to not go to the bunker. It's to build a separate society where they can run it themselves as a technocracy. That's their ultimate goal. I feel like that's what it's leading up to, or that's what they're trying to lead it to.
So one last thing I wanted to tell you about the network state is that very recently there was this project in Solano County, California. And Solano County is probably like an hour and a half drive from the Bay Area. And all of these tech billionaires formed this corporation. It was buying up all the land. And for a while, nobody knew who was buying it. And like people thought, oh, maybe this is like China. And basically journalists found out that it was this group of tech billionaires, which included like, you know, Mark Andreessen and Nat Friedman, a bunch of people affiliated with the California version of the Yes in My Backyard movement. But it really like stunk of this is going to be a potential network state. Like they didn't say that they were doing it, but it was like...
Is that the Presidio project that I've read a little bit about where they're trying to turn something...
That's within different. San Francisco, but like on the federal land in San Francisco. But this place was like in the rural California fire country, and they wanted to build this like tech utopia urbanist paradise where they were gonna, you know, have like, you know, everything was just owned by these tech billionaires that were also real estate investors. And like the obstacle basically that they ran into was that the farmers who lived there would not vote to change the zoning for them. Like, why would you like vote to be like, oh yeah, I want to give all the land near me to like Mark Andreessen to do whatever he wants. But you know, so far it seems to be kind of on hold because they can't get permission to build it. And I'm anxiously awaiting to see what it becomes. But I think it also might be like stuff like that where they just try to, you know, build like, you know, these new cities, maybe Trump's freedom cities.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the freedom cities are inherently tied to the network state concept, especially because a lot of the people that are like invested in network states seem very excited about freedom cities. I feel like they think it's an acknowledgement, and
there's
maybe
like
it
freedom
is.
cities. There's definitely crossover, but there's like the difference being because there's like the Walmart guy who wanted to found the city of Tolosa. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. It's kind of the same thing where it's the billionaires own it, but ostensibly the difference is that they actually have a place that they want to build, and it's actually going, in theory, going to have infrastructure and buildings and stuff, as opposed to like, you know, just a Discord community where you all get rug pulled together or whatever. Yeah,
that is funny. That like I feel like for any of this to actually come to fruition, like of course it's being driven by these tech people who have endless infinite money, but they are tying the success to this, and because they do want it to be a separate state. They don't want it to be like a United States. So they want the currency to be crypto. That will be like the baseline. I think if I remember correctly, they want each different network state or city or town, whatever like level it'll be, to have its own crypto, right?
Yeah. And you know, it's needs to be said explicitly that these guys genuinely want to destroy the United States. That's like their stated goal in some cases. And it was Peter Thiel. I'm trying to pull up the quote where he said it was either Peter Thiel or Curtis Yarvin, which so it doesn't really matter because they're the same brain at this point. But like
heavily influenced each other.
Well, yeah, I mean, Curtis Yarvin openly talks about how he like coaches Peter Thiel, but like he said basically the more countries we have, the more freedom we have. So they really just want to chip away at it and make a bunch of little small, I don't know, company towns, as for lack of a better term, where you're hyper online and you have to have Bitcoin for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll get more into it. And like, so this is going to be like a longer episode. We're going to be talking for a while. Like, I think in part 2, we'll talk a little bit more about Curtis Yarvin's butterfly revolution, which terrifyingly we're kind of seeing play out a little bit. And I think that's the like first step. I don't think we're like, so with all of this being said, I don't think we're like at the point where network states are a guarantee, but I think we're at like on the genuine first step towards that. We're like at the start of the butterfly revolution theory that Curtis Yarvin laid out in 2022 in that one blog of his.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you. I will remind me to ask you about that, but we'll do that later. June, you were really all about Praxis Nation. Or the Praxis city.
Yeah. So my interest in all of this started because I don't even know who I found it from, but I think it was probably like a retweet on Blue Sky. I think, you know what? It was Dave Anthony of the Dollop retweeted a screenshot of.
By the way, Kate, are you familiar with this Praxis city?
This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
Praxis Nation. Oh,
you're going to love this.
Yeah, things get even worse in regards to these network states. So there's this website that appeared on my timeline that was called the Praxis Nation. And I'll just describe. So you go to the website, praxisnation.com. And the heading is Reclaim the West, Sovereign Network for the Intelligence Age. And there's a button that says join Praxis, but the background, so it's a very obviously
it's
AI
like
generated
Gondor.
image. Yeah, it looks like an Orlando from fucking Dark Souls or some shit. It's just like the most opulent, like cathedral, AI generated, of course, like in this like mountain surrounded by like hills. And there's a flag. There's like a very tiny flag in the center that I believe is the flag for Praxis Nation. And wouldn't you guess that Peter Thiel is a major funder of the project of Praxis Nation. And I'm just going to read the like little tagline that they say about themselves when you scroll down. It says, Praxis is the world's first sovereign network, a global community developing a shared culture, institutions, and infrastructure. Praxis is a home for the brave who strive for virtue and wisdom. Our purpose is to restore Western civilization and pursue our ultimate destiny of life among the stars. So again, it's tying the like space travel and specifically the two that were successful of Peter Thiel's original thesis, the internet and use of like social media and like the internet age tied to the space travel and like the future of that. So the thing that floored me even more. So I discovered this a little bit after Donald Trump became president, and he was he assumed office. I mean, and he was starting to fill in his cabinet and like his all of his people. And as we know, J.D. Vance is tied to Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel was a big funder of J.D. Vance's original Senate run, and the person, so the front man for Praxis Nation, I'm blanking on the name off the top of my head right now, but he is, I believe, currently the ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark, and he's the front man of Praxis Nation. And this guy, I wish I remember his name off the top of my head, but his major thing
Dryden?
for the last, say that again?
Dryden?
Yes, Dryden. His major thing for the last couple of years was that America should get a Greenland from Denmark. And now he is the ambassador to Denmark, and Donald Trump has been pushing for the purchase of Greenland.
Christ.
So like these people, and the reason this has been a huge hyperfixation for me, and I've been a little scared, I'll be honest, I'm a little scared of this, is that these people are getting into powerful institutions of the government. And sure, it's just an ambassador role, but these people are in the era of Donald Trump, and the ultimate goal is to weaken the United States and destroy it from the inside so they can do this like neo-colonialism.
Honestly, I'm all for destroying the United States, just on my terms.
That's how I feel. It shouldn't be these people. It should be us.
Fareed Zakaria was calling them tech bro Maoists, which is very funny. There's just one other thing I wanted to tell you about that I think is also really horrifying. When he says life among the stars, like it does connote the space stuff, absolutely. But I think there's another element to it, which is that these guys, in addition to being neo-reactionary, like Curtis Yarvin is like more associated with the neo-reactionary movement.
Oh, for sure.
But they're also this other thing called long-termists, where they believe that the most important priority for humanity is to live, like to succeed 10 billion years into the future, where we're all digital beings in space, cloud consciousness, and that's associated with some philosophers, like philosophers loosely. I mean, these people are kind of con artists, but they are employed academically. This guy named Will McCaskill, Nick Bostrom. This is what Emil's research, my podcast co-host, is all about. But basically, like, this just gives them justification for why they're the most important people in the entire world, and why their mortality is the biggest situation facing humanity. Because like, if our main goal as a human species is to get to Mars, to get to, other galaxies and succeed 10 billion years into the future, have as many people as possible, then like, who's the only person that can do that? Or who are the only people? Tech billionaires, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk. So this space shit, in addition to just being like wacky sci-fi, it's also a moral justification for like literally killing us all. Like not paying attention to climate change, not paying attention to poverty, none of that stuff matters, because it's short-term problems compared to like our future among the stars.
I also feel like it's worth noting that a lot of these people are fucking drug addicts. Like, yes. And I don't want to disparage, like, look, I'm sober. I used to be addicted to cocaine. Okay. Like I'm not disparaging people, but I mean, like, these guys are cracked the fuck out. Like Elon Musk openly admits to using like MDMA, acid. He looks like every video that comes out of him when he's somewhere, people are like, you saw the tweet where they were like, he's all the thoughts that these idiots think that he's having, where he's like, that load bearing needs 15% more to be more, or the 15% for acoustics, or like whatever the fuck. When really he's just like ketamine. Like that's.
Yeah, he did like a low dose injection straight into himself right before he showed up in public, and he's like seeing the lights blur. Like you're totally right. Is these people are not even in the shared reality that most people are in.
Absolutely. There's this guy. Okay, so like Curtis Yarvin is the main figure associated with the neo-reactionary movement, but there's also one more guy. His name is Nick Land, and he is the guy that came up with the term he's a right accelerationist, but he's the guy that came up with the term dark enlightenment, I think. And, basically a lot of his ideas are very, very similar to Yarvin's. We have to have a monarchy, but like the story of this guy is that he was pretty left leaning. He wrote stuff with Mark Fisher, who was a beloved figure on the left. And then this guy, but he was like left. And then what happened is he got addicted to meth. Like really destroyed his life with meth by all accounts, and then got into this stuff. So yeah, it absolutely is drug fueled.
That is wild. I guess like, I don't know, because a lot of the people in the current Trump administration, and again, not to shame drug use, I don't think that should be the case, but like RFK notoriously used to be a heroin addict. Like all of these people had some sort of thing.
Listen, I think we could all agree, and everybody listening can agree, that it's like, one thing, we don't want to stigmatize drug users, but they shouldn't be fucking making their own countries. I mean, can we start there? Is that allowed?
Especially when the underpinning ideology is some people should not have rights, actually.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's fueled by like that mindset, like something changes in people. But another thing, so again, coming back to Praxis Nation, just because I feel like this is the most visible organization attempting to become a network state right now. If you scroll at the bottom of their website, it says Praxis Citizenship. Our citizenry includes thousands of committed people from dozens of countries who have built technology companies worth $1 trillion. The courageous are joining us on this quest. Will you? And it's very clearly like the basically it'll be like a monarchy of the tech, these tech bros, these tech people that will be the like heads of these states fueled by crypto. So basically these are startup companies, like startup company towns. It sounds like the plan, from all I can gather, is they want to move people from like, I don't know, Utah, like a rich person from Utah, to like the coast of Honduras, to like create this new town built on crypto.
Okay. As we kind of round down the episode here, Kate, do you want to tell us a little bit more about your show?
Yeah, absolutely. So the podcast that I do with Emil Torres is called Dystopia Now, and we go into a lot of the different topics that we've discussed here. And, just the different philosophies that are motivating people in Silicon Valley. We have talked about long-termism. We've talked about effective altruism, network states. We're going to do neo-reactionary movement soon. And it's kind of all about the ideologies, religions, philosophies, and really deep diving on it. So I think if you liked this conversation, or even if you have a perverse curiosity about it, you probably like the show.
Definitely. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Definitely check that out.
I've been enjoying it so far.
Thank you.
We will in part 2. Don't worry.
I just want to add one last thing off to this segment this part of the episode before we get into the next recording.
We didn't get to talk about how hot Curtis Yarvin
something that
is, though,
a lot of people, I haven't seen it as much
lately,
but when Trump won and there was like that immediate, what people called capitulation to like the new Trump regime and Elon Musk, is like, oh, like Mark Zuckerberg, oh, Jeff Bezos, they're all bending the knee really fast. And it's like, I don't think that's necessarily true. I think a small part, like these people have known each other for a long time.
Yeah,
like,
they just now feel like they have cultural permission to say what they think.
And, the reason, like, I feel like a part of why that happened, that they have this permission, is Elon Musk's gambit of essentially buying the presidency and being the co-president worked. There was not enough of a reaction against it to prevent people with infinite money to like be stopped, So I don't think it's necessary capitulation that's driving it. Like their change and these people's shifts to the right and away from like maybe a liberal or left ideology. I think it's just that they realize they have a moment here where they could potentially be stronger than the government or any government. Sorry to end that on a doom pill moment.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely, of course, link to Kate's show in the show notes, and we'll see you for part 2 behind the Patreon at patreon.com/Western Kabuki.